Metal Workshop. I'm Kent, and we're still working on our 2001 Silverado 2500 HD project. We got the bumpers done, and well, mostly done. I've still got a few tweaks here and there, and then of course we're going to spray them with bed liner before we mount them. But the next step in the project is the rotten rocker and cab corner on the driver's side. Started out by taking both doors off. Seats are still not connected because I'm waiting for the seat covers, so that's coming up as well. But what we're going to do, we're going to start out by taking the wire wheel and taking off all the paint and some of the loose rust, so we can see where exactly we have to cut back to. I've got a new outside rocker. The inner rocker looked pretty good, but it's not so great. So I don't know if I'm going to buy an inner rocker or if I'm going to just patch it in with sheet metal where it needs it. Haven't decided that yet. Have to see how bad the damage is before we go that far. But I knew I needed the outer rocker and the cab corner, so I got those. The outer rocker covers up this part right here up to this point right here. So I can cut this right here and weld this in. That's not a problem. I just have to decide where at the front the damage stops and where to trim it off here at the back. So this is actually long enough to reach well past it. I've got about 5 inches of extra material here, plus whatever I don't use at the front edge. So we're in good shape there. We got plenty of metal to work with. Just got to get it cleaned up so we can decide what on the inner rocker needs to be replaced to give us something solid to weld the outer rocker to. I'll be switching the welder over to 023 wire. I usually use 035 for most of my projects, but we'll be switching to 023. Same gas, argon CO2 mix. So I'm going to go ahead and get grinding on this, and I'll bring you back when I get all the paint gone, and we can take a good look at what's here and what needs to be replaced. Alright, we removed the paint. There's a pinhole right here. Everything up in this area right here, from here forward, seems to be good. So we'll be starting a repair here and going backwards. I'm not a body guy. I'll be the first to admit that. But this is a project that just about anybody can tackle if you've got a 110 volt welder or better and a time and space to do it. This isn't something you want to tackle in a weekend and drive the truck again on Monday. A lot of times it takes longer than that because the further you dig into it, the more issues you can find with rust and so on. So I wouldn't recommend planning a weekend to do this, but it can be done, and it just takes some time and patience. And I've watched a lot of good body guys do their work and learned a lot from them over the years. So I'm just going to take my time and do it step by step and get a decent product at the end. That I think the cab corner and the outer rocker was about $100. So that, some body filler. I'm going to paint the truck anyways, so that doesn't make a difference. And this is all covered by bed liner anyways on the rest of the truck. So when I return it back, we'll hit it with bed liner as well. So that's where we're at, and we'll come back after I get some lines drawn and figure stuff out exactly where I'm going to cut, and we'll bring it back and do some cutting. Okay, we're back. Getting ready to cut out the bad section of the rocker. I went ahead and wiped it down with some acetone, and then I applied tape so I can define my cut. Tape's a little bit easier to follow than a marker or something like that, so this gives me a good line to follow here. And I'm going to use a cutoff wheel in the grinder. I'll start up here, make cut down here, and I'll come back here and make a cut here, and then I will follow the line along, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to move the camera so you can get a good shot of this, and start cutting our line. So So we're just going to go ahead and take the cutoff wheel and start cutting. Of course, I can't quite get into the corner with the angle grinder, so I'll have to switch to a saw. I'm going to check to see if my body saw is working, and that'll be the best tool to make that last little cut there. Otherwise, we have a pretty straight cut. Should be fairly easy to weld the new piece in. I'm going to get this last little chunk here cut out, and we'll bring you back to take a look at the results. Alright, we got the piece cut out here. You can see it laying there on the floor. The cut needs to be straightened up a little bit here and there, but overall not bad. Here's where the metal is solid again. So, and the inner rocker is pretty good there. I don't know if we can see underneath here, but some places that inner rocker is pretty rotten. So, still have to make a decision on what we're going to do about the inner rocker. Still have to make a decision on what I'm going to do about the inner rocker, but we're going to keep going here, get this ready. There's a couple spots where the rust has worked its way up a little bit higher. They're going to have to be repaired. Fortunately for us, or for me at least, they're flat, so I don't have to do a lot of shaping. I can just trim out the area, and then I can go ahead and weld in some flat, I believe this is like 18 gauge, somewhere close to that. So I'll scratch through my pile and find some scraps and see what I have that's close in thickness, and we'll get that tacked in. Then I have to decide what I'm going to do about the inner rocker. But we'll bring you back for that decision and continue on with this project. Alright, we're back on the sheet metal on the 2001 Chevy 2500 HD. When we left, I cut out the bad rocker panel and part of the bad cab corner. So now we're going to get going on replacing that sheet metal. I've got a start of cutting out the new cab corner. So we're going to get that fitted in. I've still got to cut out some more of this, but I have to figure out exactly where. And it does fit in here rather nicely at the moment. That's about approximately where it's going to be. So, as you can see, I've got it cut. It snaps right in. That's the right place. So now I'll make some marks on here to cut this so we can piece this piece in. I do have it cut down here, but I want to leave more of this intact, so I'm going to make the patch a little bit bigger. And it'll give me more support in this corner. So I've got to draw this out and figure out where I want to trim on the backside here, because most of the backside's in good shape. And as of right now, I think I can cut it out and reach in there with the welder and weld this in place without removing the bed or sliding the bed backwards. If I can't, then I'm going to have to slide the bed backwards a few inches so I can get in there. I'm trying to avoid doing that on this one. Most of this metal back in here is in good shape. It was just this lower section that was bad. So get a marker and we'll get this marked and get it cut out. Okay, I've got our mark in place. I'm going to cut to leave the line so we can get it just about perfect. So then I'll have to come back in here and trim out some of this and trim this to match so we get into the good metal and not the rusty stuff. So we'll grab a cutoff wheel and we'll get this cut and we'll go from there. Get my snips and we'll see if we can trim a little bit more of that out. This stuff down here looks pretty good. I'm just going to clean it up with a wire brush on the grinder, and then we'll go ahead and hit it with some rust converter before we weld the new pieces in. So I'm going to grab some snips and we'll see what we can trim out here. Okay, I've got it marked so we trim right along this line right here. Right along here. Oh yeah, it's fitting in there really nice now. Trim a little bit more of this away. I'm just going to keep working at it with the tin snips now till we get it exactly where we want it. Just a little bit at a time. We want a nice tight gap. Gonna have to do a little body bumping, just here and there to get it exactly where we want it. That's just part of the game. I've never had one of these panels fit exactly right on the first try. This one's pretty darn close. Sometimes you can just force the sheet metal into place with your hands. Sometimes you have to hit it with a hammer. They've got some spray and foam of some kind in here. I'm guessing for sound deadening that we're going to have to pull out before we weld, because if you've ever been around spray, any kind of foam, you know what heat does to it. So but there we go. That piece is pretty much ready to weld in. Just going to clean up the piece. Then we have, before we weld, we have to take out some of this foam in here, dig that out, probably up into this level here. Just keep it away from the heat. We're not going to be dumping a whole lot of heat into this panel as we weld it, but just a series of tack welds, spot welds along the edges. I got some seam sealer over here that needs to be ground away, and I got a piece down in here and in this corner that need to be rebuilt, and a piece right here, and then we'll start working on this bottom section, cutting out what's bad there and bending some pieces to replace that. You don't have to buy pieces from the body shop, from the suppliers. A lot of the simple stuff, well, even the complicated stuff, if you have the right tools and the know-how and the patience, you can make all these body panels yourself. I try to limit body panel work to things like this little patch here, filling holes, that kind of stuff, cutting out little plugs for that. And this bottom edge here is just a, if I can feel where the metal is good in here, and it's just this very bottom lip. So I'm just going to make a little L-shaped piece to replace the bad section along here with the brake, and we'll just get it all welded in, and then our new rocker will come down, outer rocker will come down and cover it from here to there. So, be back with you in just a little bit. We're going to get some of this dug out and get the welder set up, and we're going to clean this up and spray it with the rust converter before we go any further.